Secure some price for Monday, December 22nd, 2025. Presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Make for a hell of a Christmas present, huh? Put a bow on a vehicle, on a Toyota. Matt Sakaris here with Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches and conducting things on the week of Christmas. And with the Vancouver Canucks on a heater and going in to face their former head coach Rick Tocchet in Philly tonight. Quite a weekend from the Canucks, Blake. How you doing?
I'm well. Hope you are as well. And yeah, the Vancouver Canucks are all too well. This is an
I see what
spell.
you did there. I see what you did there. Mike, did you catch that?
That was clever.
He's with his daughters. It's one of their birthdays. Guess who was listening to Taylor Swift on the way up to Whistler?
There's been a bunch of documentaries released. And hey.
Oh, I know. They've been in our home on pretty loud volume, actually.
And if you're a tankist, you better hope that this win streak is not a Taylor's version, a super extended 14-minute all too well, because that could prove to be a bit of a troublesome thing here as they try to trade Kiefer Sherwood. Hey, it was incredible. The shootout stuff we're going to get into. The shootout stuff we're going to get into, but it's the goaltenders. You can't stop your goaltenders from goaltending, and
that's right.
If Lankinen is back, Matt.
Well, I'm not sure he's back, but wow, what a shootout performance to say the least. He made some other good saves as well. I mean, the raw numbers won't look as good with all the goals that go in, but talked about it last week. Awful that we're back in this boat, but no, players and coaches are not going to tank. They're going to give their 100% effort, the best effort they can muster on any given night. Tanking has to be done at the managerial level in terms of stripping away toys. It cannot be done at the player and coaches at the bench and on ice level. And I got to give them credit. They have played hard. Said it last week after the wins in Jersey and against the Rangers. You have to tip your cap, stick tap, and give this Canucks group of players a ton of credit for the way they have handled a difficult situation. I mean, we saw the postmortem on the trade last week and how quickly it all went down with Quinn being whisked off the plane. There are a lot of teams who, down in the dumps near the basement or right in the basement of the NHL standings, get their captain traded away, who would have gone into a further rut. And the Canucks, to their infinite credit, have mustered as much professionalism and effort and care as they possibly could have during this 4-game winning streak.
And hungry young players, too. Linus Karlsson, multi-point games. Liam Öhgren was born again as a Vancouver Canuck. And, it's a highly skilled player that wants to prove that his draft status there as a first-rounder was not a mistake. And you can't prevent these sorts of things from happening. So, I'm happy for the young players in particular for them getting on their feet.
I'm with you. Let's get to our daily poll question with Rick Tocchet across the ice tonight, or down the ice on the Philadelphia Flyers bench. Are the Canucks better off without Rick Tocchet? You can vote yes, you can vote no. Do so at the Secure Some Price X and YouTube channels. Mr. Price, lead us off.
Hey, his record this year is outstanding. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a fine coach. But and this is not an endorsement. I don't think the Canucks are better off with Adam Foote. So I'm gonna put that stipulation as well. But I do think they're better off. I don't think Rick Tocchet was their long-term solution as a head coach. So I'm voting yes, even though I don't think, again, Adam Foote is not the droid they're looking for. But I don't think Rick Tocchet was long-term either.
Yeah, I voted no. His season 2 years ago was amongst the single best coaching jobs in Vancouver Canucks history. It ranks with the best of Alain Vigneault, with the best of Pat Quinn. He's doing a heck of a job in Philadelphia this season. Now, I do think there may be a ceiling, a limitation to the style of play that Tocchet uses. And we had that, and we had that conversation last year. And I was probably late to that party, as I mentioned to you last year, Blake, that I thought it was, well, I mean, it is always more a personnel issue. It is almost always more a personnel issue than it is a coaching issue, although last year I think there was a lot of blame to go around. And yeah, I'm with you that I don't think they hired the right guy. I think the right guy is down the road in Abbotsford, and they missed him. I think they hired Adam Foote because he was Quinn Hughes' positional coach, and it was everything to keep Quinn Hughes. And so they went with a rookie NHL head coach that 31 teams would not have considered. And look, part of the issue this year has been coaching as well, with that defensive system that Foote has employed, and the Canucks' slowness, trouble adapting to what Foote wants to do. So I voted no as well. Look, you take a look at what he's doing in Philadelphia this year. Now, on the surface, it looks really good. It is 17 wins, 10 losses, 7 overtime or shootout defeats. It's 41 points. It's holding down a wild card spot with games in hand on many of his direct competitors in the Eastern Conference. And he's doing it without centers, Blake. Like, who knew we had the coach to coach a team that is without centers, which is the predicament the Vancouver Canucks have been in all season long. You were looking at their depth chart this morning. Give it to me. Who's that center ice right now for the Philadelphia Flyers?
Well, Couturier is still there, but you could make the argument that there's been a demotion there down to the second line. Christian Dvorak is their top line center. Dvorak was a guy, remember, the Canucks were kind of looking at in free agency, or was available to the Canucks in free agency in the summer. But, you know, most people were asking them to look past a guy like Christian Dvorak, that they could do better in a deal for, say, a Marco Rossi at the time. But, you know, Dvorak's done okay, obviously, under Rick Tocchet. And Matvei Michkov has, of course, been demoted and scratched. And Rick Tocchet continues to answer all sorts of questions about the deployment of their potential young superstar. So they're doing it with smoke and mirrors a little bit, outside of Couturier, who's a veteran, obviously, and is available to them still. But he's not getting the limelight that he once did.
8th in the NHL in points percentage, the Philadelphia Flyers are. The Canucks are 31st. But I thought this was a good tweet from Sapster, who points out this system the NHL has with its loser points. Look at that, huh? Regulation wins. They both have 10. OT wins. Regulation plus OT wins. They both have 12. And yet somehow the Vancouver Canucks are languishing down where they are, and the Philadelphia Flyers are where they are. You were also
Flyers have gotten past 60 minutes 14 times this year already in 34 games. So I mean, they're really close to half of their games getting past 60 minutes, and if that's the case, you're going to get points.
Yeah, and Tocchet was talking about that yesterday, saying they have been a tough team on the ticker for their fans with so many close games. Okay, let's get into some of the things that he said to the province and our buddy Patrick Johnston, who will be joining us here in a matter of moments. I guess the highlight quote is, I'm sure people get pissed off that I left, that they say I quit. He has been quite sensitive to the word quit since parting company with the Vancouver Canucks. And we mentioned it last week. That's a trigger word for athletes and coaches. And in fairness, he was out of contract, so it's not like he resigned or quit. He chose not to come back. We will give him that bone. That is the accurate side of this equation. Tocchet went on and said, when I talked to Jim, meaning Rutherford, and told him I wasn't coming back, I was very emotional about it. Vancouver job is a great job. I had a blast there. Nobody ran me out of town. The media was great. People talk about Vancouver Twitter. I don't read that stuff. When I was in the city, I walked around the city all the time. I never had a bad experience. People were great. That was the hard part. The fans are great. They really, really are. It was really hard to leave 100%. And we heard this from Roberto Luongo, even when he was getting showered with boo birds at Rogers Arena. He did not have a single bad experience on the streets of Vancouver, because here's the thing. When you see a celebrity, an NHL player or a coach on the streets of Vancouver, it takes a whole lot of gumption to go up and make it a negative experience for the two of you, right? Most people don't have those sorts of stones to go right up to an NHL player and say, hey, what's with that decision on Thursday? Or what a terrible goal you let in on Wednesday. They're not going to operate that way. They're going to ask for the photo. They're going to ask for the autograph, whatever the case may be. It is more
rest
often
his soul,
than
but
not.
I used to see Robin Williams walking around downtown, walking down Robson, and like very few people were saying anything to him. I mean, like people are
Right.
The internet is a terrible place. That is the place where harassment happens ad nauseum.
Yep.
But in person, you're right. It takes a special kind of person to be annoying. I do want to address the quitting part. Matt, when's the last time you can remember a head coach walking away from a team out of contract? It doesn't happen. Coaches get fired. That's the only time they leave teams. So this was a very unique circumstance, and Rick Tocchet can couch it all he wants, but coaches don't leave their teams voluntarily. It just doesn't happen.
It's very infrequent. It's very infrequent.
Yeah.
Belichick was head coach of the Jets for a couple of minutes there way back when and decided to leave. But no, you're quite right. Yeah. The other thing I'll say about his experiences on the streets, and you and I have heard this from professional athletes, but I believe the celebrity actors would tell you this as well, especially those who are up here in Vancouver filming. Canadians just are not celebrity slurpers like Americans are. We don't have the same idolization of celebrities where we put them on pedestals and chase them down and things like that. Canadians, for the most part, are pretty polite and respectful, and we give people like that their space more often than not. Just an observation from 25 years of doing this. Now, as for the Vancouver experience, Tocchet talked on that as well. He said, maybe I thought I did get quickly to the problems in Vancouver, but I probably should have got to some of the problems a lot quicker. And that, of course, is the Elias Pettersson, JT Miller feud and the way that was allowed to fester and then, well, basically divide the room, split up the team last year. On that file, Tocchet said, well, I mean, there were other things too, but obviously that's the elephant in the room, the big one. There were other little things, but I mean, you can go back and ask what ifs and stuff like that. Could we get to the issue a little bit quicker? It was always brewing, but it was never a force. It wasn't a 10 blazer. Could we have got so that we got the fire trucks there a little bit quicker to the Flames? Maybe. I don't know. And here's what I'll say. I give Tocchet a lot of leash on that file, because he coaches who gets off the bus, right? Like he coaches who management gets him. And it was clear way back when, even when JT Miller signed his extension, that he and Elias Pettersson were not copacetic, that there was still a combustible relationship at play there, something that they were going to have to manage, mitigate, and hope it didn't turn into what it turned into last year. Now, if you want to put some blame on Tocchet for that, okay, fair enough. He's the head coach. But I think the most of the blame on that goes to the management side, who knew they had a festering situation with Elias and JT and re-signed both players anyway.
I mean, I think everybody probably has regrets looking back. The difficult part is that early on, when the symptoms first arose, Matt, I think coach and management alike probably, and this is the way I would react, think, these are adults. It'll sort itself out. That's the way that we react in generally every other facet, I think, of society is these are adults. It'll work itself out. This is not high school. And yet it didn't seem to. And I think you expect better of grown adults to figure out their shit and figure out a working relationship. And I think they did they had the success or in the playoffs and got to game 7 versus the Oilers. I mean, they found a way to make it work. Kobe and Shaq found a way to make it work until they didn't. And I think that was the same for the Canucks. They found a way to make it work until they didn't. And at that point then, Matt, the horses are out of the barn. It was way too late.
Yeah. Here's the one thing I have been surprised by. How preoccupied Tocchet is with Vancouver and with this market and this team still. I am accustomed to professional coaches being so busy, being so fixated on the now, the present, how do I win the next game, that when they do get time to think about something other than the urgency of now and the next game, it is about down the road with their own team, not necessarily reflecting back in their future. I can't tell you the number of times that I have asked a coach a question when he's come back to his quote-unquote old stop where you get a pretty quick non-answer or something that is platitude. Oh, I enjoyed my time there. It was great, but I'm coaching so-and-so now. Boy, Rick spends a lot of time talking about Vancouver and the Canucks still. Like, he went on Donnie and Dolly last Monday, and he risked tampering with an ex-Vancouver Canuck captain and new Minnesota Wild player in Quinn Hughes in what could have been perceived as wanting to dunk on Canucks fans and the fact that this team, this organization now lost Hughes, much like they lost him. I thought that was pretty ballsy of them, of him. I also thought, boy, you say, the slightest word wrong talking about, again, a Minnesota Wild player who was a Vancouver Canucks player, like not in your charge anymore, Rick. I was really surprised that he risked tampering to get his 2 cents in, I guess, about the Quinn Hughes trade.
Well, to me, and this
when he was going to have the opportunity here this week anyways, it was very, very odd.
This is speculative completely from my story, but it sounds to me like a guy who wants to subtly say, it was a bad situation. Like, it was a festering wound in that team. And
I think he wants to see, you understand my position better now. I think that's what it was all about.
Yeah, I mean, he's not clobbered anybody over the head. Let's be clear. He's not been too overt about it, but I think he is subtly trying to make that point that I had to get out, and you're seeing.
And you would have too if you were in my shoes. I think that's what he is trying. That is the greater point that he wants to get across. And frankly, Blake, I'm not sure he's wrong about that latter point. Mm-hmm. Who amongst us, if given an opportunity with a longer-term deal and longer shelf life, with as much or more money to coach in a great city, in an organization where you mattered, right? That is meaningful to you. I completely understand it from the Rick Tocchet side of things. I don't necessarily think from a career evolution point of view he was wrong. And let's face it, Blake, we had talked about the downside as well. So Rick Tocchet, this may be harsh, but was a 2-time failed NHL coach, right? Didn't do much winning in Tampa, didn't do much winning in Arizona. Now, both were basket case franchises when he was the head coach there, so there is a whole lot of context. But if he had stuck in Vancouver and kept losing, like gone through more losing like they did last season, who's hiring Rick Tocchet next, right? What are the career advancement opportunities? So I can understand the timing of it and why he jumped to the Philadelphia Flyers in terms of looking out for number one and looking out for your ongoing coaching career in the NHL, because let's face it, you get a couple more years of patience in Philadelphia than he would have had here in Vancouver. Is that fair?
That's true. That's true. But that assumes that he thinks coaching is the be all and end all. And we all know that, of course, he was pretty torn about returning to coaching. He was enjoying the TV life. So I don't know that he's necessarily feeling like there's a gun to his head for his hockey future, because he knows he can go back to TV.
Fair enough. Yep, and he's an excellent TV analyst. I mean, oh my gosh, like I mean, to me, he is A plus as a studio analyst. I would love to see him do color for games if he ever goes back into that world, because I think he'd be excellent. So, and the other thing I will say is, while last year was a heinous experience for everybody in that Canucks dressing room and for a lot of Canucks fans who watched their team come crumbling down when there was so much hope and optimism early in the season in October, I really enjoyed listening to Rick speak about the game of hockey over his 2.5 years here. I learned a ton about the sport. I learned a ton about the players in his charge. I learned a ton about the X's and O's and how he went about trying to formulate victories, his pathways, and what he deemed was important. So, as we said many times along the way, I think we were all richer and more knowledgeable hockey fans for having Rick Tocchet in our market than we would have been with one of these, gruff, tell you nothing coaches who just wanted to get the media period out of the way. Rick engaged day after day. He engaged on some extremely difficult days when a lot of other coaches would have been turtling. And he barely lost his patience and got snappy. I mean, there were a few occasions, right, Blake, in 2.5 years where he lost his patience a little bit and got snappy with the with the Inquisitors. And for the most part, I think he did a lot better there than a lot of coaches would have. Although he did get a little impatient and snappy today, on the Matt Fay Mitchkov question.
Yes. We're 17-10. I've been asked 6 straight Michkov questions. Let's go, guys. Let's move on. So yeah, he's that Vancouver media. He graduated from Vancouver media, but Philly media.
Oh yeah, it's
testing his nerve.
No, it is not a 2-ply town, Philly. When questions come to the sports teams. All right, let's get to our top story. It's brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Streaking, Canucks have won 4 in a row for the first time since October 2024. Undefeated since the trade of captain Quinn Hughes to Minnesota. They can sweep this 5-game road trip with a win against old coach Rick Tocchet in Philadelphia. Head into the Christmas break, winning 5 in a row for the first time since January 2024. Blake, that was nearly 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. We've made reference to the inability of this team to string together victories numerous times during that span. I mean, even when we thought they were better than their record indicated, we were like, "Come on, where's the ability to string together for we've talked about bad teams win 5 in a row all the time in this league, and they're about to be one of those teams potentially as well. It was a statistical anomaly for this team to not be able to string together victories. But here they are, and again, I'm not going to tear down what they've done. There's been some really nice performances, and the only qualm I have about this, Matt, is we've talked about this weird standings right now. Canucks have already, via points, not points percentage, climbed a couple of rungs in the Western Conference ladder. If this goes on 2 or 3 more games, Matt, more rungs will be climbed. Now, you have to be careful, folks. That's them at their pinnacle, and they're still going to be falling short, I would think. But it's gonna change the narrative. Fans are gonna get excited, and it's just a little dangerous. So as much as you want to applaud the efforts and the performances,
it's a little dangerous. It's a little dangerous if you're a full tankist rebuildist. But
yes.
Well, look, here's the thing. Win tonight would tie for the 3rd longest winning streak they've had since the pandemic. They've had 3 5-gamers, 1 6-gamer, and then that 7-game Bruce bump in December 4 years ago.
The Bruce bump.
Bruce bump. You remember that? They've outscored their opponents 13-6 on this streak, and both special teams have been excellent here. Not something we have said for an awfully long time. Usually the PK's up, the power play's down, or vice versa. The power play's clicking at 31% on this streak. The penalty kill is clicking at 93%. They are a sensational 4-1-2 in the second game of back-to-backs this season, Blake. Like it was mentioned on the broadcast Saturday early on, Shorty saying, Canucks played last night and the Bruins look as though they know as much. And yet here come the Vancouver Canucks, the better team in the 3rd period in Boston at the TD Bank North Garden.
The 2 toughest times to win, generally speaking. Second half of back-to-backs have that record that you talked about, and now their road record as well, which is spectacular at 11-7-2. Like for the playoff advocates, they can do it. I mean, there is evidence there. those are the two toughest places to win. If they could figure out how to win in the easiest place, which is at home, they would be a
Yep.
playoff team. I mean, I don't know how to make heads or tails of that, Matt. I really don't. And so I would grant the playoff advocates, they have some evidence now. Like,
Yep.
that is a really good road record.
Well,
That is, winning on back-to-backs is crazy.
And Blake, let's not discount the win on Friday. Like, that was a full value, better team, multi-goal on the road win. Patrick Roy said the worst game his team had played this season. And some of that had to do with the Vancouver Canucks and the way they played. They get 3 goals coming out in the first period, 2 from Kiefer Sherwood, who bags yet another hat trick and is up to 16 goals. And then they put that sucker away. The Islanders get a 3-1 goal, and you think, okay, a little bit of anxiety goes through them, but they lead that game in shots by 7. It's a hell of an effort from the Canucks on Friday against the Islanders, against a pretty good team on home ice. Yes, they were missing some players. Vancouver was too. That Schaefer kid is worth the price of admission, but full value for the victory Friday, and then a very good win Saturday, too, in a tough place to play second of back-to-back. Okay, so let's bring up the graphic here from Money Puck. And to be clear, this was entering play yesterday, so things would have changed a little bit based on the results from the Sunday schedule of NHL games. And, of course, the Sunday schedule brought us things like the Nashville Predators getting a regulation win against the New York Rangers, as well as the Utah Mammoth defeating the Winnipeg Jets, if you want to talk about teams in the Canucks orbit. But there's the Canucks on the left, and for those of you who can't see on audio platforms or just the type is too small, Money Puck was giving them an 18% chance of the playoffs, Blake, heading into Sunday play. That's nearly 1 in 5.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's
That's
funny.
pretty high. Like, I thought it would be lower than that, but a 4-game winning streak gets you into that zone. And, boy, if you were to rip off 4 more wins, a little closer to 50-50.
The Canucks and Nashville were both putrid for much of this season. And now maybe nobody's hotter than Nashville, who have won 7 of 10. And the Canucks have won 4 in a row, aiming for 5. I mean, it's a really weird year. And I don't know what to make of it. Teams that authored some great stories early on have sunk to the bottom in Seattle and Chicago, and for understandable reasons. But ultimately, understandable reasons are reasons. And the Canucks have, had all their injuries as well. So I don't think you apologize for that. I mean, obviously the Tankists are going to be what they are, but I'll say this, Matt, it was a long runway to the end of the season for everybody just to be resigned to this team being at the bottom. And I think they still very well might be. But for this team to give fans something to pay attention to a little bit and to tune in December and hope for some goals and some victories, I don't begrudge that at all. I mean, there's plenty of time for them to sink back to the bottom of the league. But in the meantime, you might as well have something to watch. And, I was at a Christmas party on Saturday night, Matt, and, there's people around the TV watching the shootout. That's
of course
what this is about. It's an entertainment product. Yeah.
We were at Greta on Saturday, and when the shootout came on, everybody was absolutely riveted. I mean, everyone's having a good time. It's Christmas, exchanging cheer, visiting tables, conversations happening everywhere. But when that game got down into the overtime and the shootout, everybody fixated on the screen and cheering on the Canucks. Mm-hmm. If there were tankists at Greta, they did not reveal themselves. But here's the thing. Look, Chicago wasn't a very good team to begin with. They had a terrific 20-plus game run there, but they're 2-7-1. They've lost 5 in a row. They're without Connor Bedard. They're without Frank Nazar. That Blackhawks team isn't doing a lot of winning here in the short term. Seattle, which, if you look at them, have a reasonably balanced group of forwards. They lack star power, as we know. That thing seems to be going off the rails as well. They're 2-8 in their last 10, and they declared themselves a seller on Friday by moving out a player for picks. More on that. I think Winnipeg is better than their talent, although they're not nearly as deep as they have been in the past. They, of course, benefited from otherworldly goaltending the last couple of seasons with Connor Hellebuck. It is clear that Jonathan Toews is no longer an NHL player, and they have too big a stake in him at center ice. Winnipeg might actually be in this cluster, Blake, with Calgary, Vancouver, Seattle, Chicago, Nashville, St. Louis, and the rest of them.
There's competition.
And quite frankly, I'm not sure San Jose is in there either, right? Great high-end young talent, but do you have enough over 82 games? Basically, Blake, I look at the Western Conference right now, and I say to myself, yeah, I think the 8 best teams might be above the bar, and the worst 8 teams below the bar. And if there is going to be a lot of movement there, I can't see it being more than 1, 2 at the high end. So it very well could be quite competitive to get to the bottom and get the best odds for Gavin McKenna and secure that top 3 overall draft position.
The standings are so leading right now. The St. Louis Blues are 2 below the bar, just the San Jose Sharks to jump. They've played 37 games, though. They've played 5 more games.
Yeah, but Utah's played 38, Blake. So
Utah has played 5 more games than the Seattle Kraken. Matt, that's 2 weeks of work. That's a week and a half worth of work. Like it doesn't even make any sense. And the Blues are a minus 33 goal differential. Like there is no chance.
That's twice as bad as the Canucks, Blake. Vancouver's minus 16. St. Louis minus 33.
There's no chance the Blues are challenging for a playoff position. Like give it a rest.
I don't think so.
If you look at the standings, that's what you see. So it's very weird.
I could see San Jose hanging around, and I could see Winnipeg bouncing back if Hellebuck gets on another heater. But other than that, I do think there's a cluster of bad teams in the Western Conference. Elias Pettersson and Nils Höglander did not skate with the group this morning. So it looks like it's going to be an 8th straight missed game for Elias. That means he hits the Christmas break on 8 goals, 14 assists, 22 points in 28 games this season. Adam Foote finally addressed what was holding him back, saying he tweaked something with an upper body, and they hope to have him back after Christmas, but Foote did not sound particularly confident in that opinion.
Yeah. I mean, again, if your goal is to see more victories for the Vancouver Canucks, they are a better team with Elias Pettersson. I mean, let's not pretend that's not the case. David Kampf's single goal notwithstanding, the depth down the middle gets a lot better. And hey, maybe Elias Pettersson coming back, Matt. It's been a muted start for Marco Rossi, but if Pettersson comes back, Rossi immediately gets a lot better assignments. And maybe Marco Rossi starts to have a little bit of a takeoff as well. So they are much better with him in the lineup, but I'll believe it when he's ready, when I see him out there playing in a game. So,
yeah, well, and it also stands that for everyone who said, oh, no, they're better without him. Look, they've won 4 in a row. Well, okay, this will be the 8th game he missed. How did they do with him in the previous games when he was missing from the lineup? There were some losses there to Detroit by 4 goals and lowly Buffalo at home.
And so Adam Foote realized too that you can win without Ratu as well.
We're going to get to that here in a second. But first, what's up with our friends at Yellow Dog?
I'm on a real big Pilsner kick right now, Matt. And the problem is I can never choose which one I want to go with. And so Yellow Dog has solved all that. Our neighborhood, has solved all that with the Tourist Pilsner Mix Pack. Whatever nuanced style of Pilsner you prefer, it's all right there. In the 3-pack, you've got the Pursuit Czech Pilsner. You got the Exchange Student Italian Pilsner, and then the Little Rabbits Canadian Pilsner as well. Each beer passport stamped with flavor, brewed with global inspiration and neighborhood attitude. No flights, no lines, no customs, just pure Pilsner adventure. Go check it out from Neighborhood.
I've figured out the rabbits part that you guys knew about that I didn't last time.
If you know, you know.
Quite an homage. Well done.
It was.
Mike Coghill and his family are originally from Saskatchewan.
Not the first time they've done a wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah,
label.
Absolutely. Well done to Mike, Melinda, Coghill, John Main, Jess, Brad McDonald, Alicia. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and thank you to all of them for the ongoing support. Shout out Gil in Penticton as well, who takes great care of us when we get up there. Thank you to all the Yellow Dog team. Okay, time now for the Crave the Stats. That's brought to you by Uber Eats, where today we look at Kevin Lankinen, shootout God, Blake Price.
Can you believe he is the best shootout goaltender in National League history? 882 save percentage. He has stopped 45 of 51 in his career. He's perfect this year, 14 of 14. And he's actually the second goalie in Canucks history to go 7 for 7 or better in a shootout. Jacob Markstrom did that a couple of times. But as you can see, there are 3 Canuck goaltenders that are in the top 6 all-time save percentage.
Eddie, baby. Love seeing Eddie's name.
Amongst, and if obviously the Bold is active. So Bold, Canucks are 1-2. The Canucks goaltenders are 1-2 in
Let's run it down.
Percentage.
Let's run it down for those on audio platforms. Yeah. So it's Kevin Lankinen with the save percentage of 882. Then ex-NHL goalers Mark Denis and Mikko Koskinen. Then Demko number 4, second amongst active at 811. Linus Ullmark of the Ottawa Senators, 5th at 810. Those are the only 5 goalies in the history of the league with save percentages above 800 in the shootout. Then you get Eddie Lack at 6th at 796. And Jeremy Swayman, who was, of course, in the other goal on Saturday for the Bruins at 790. He's 7th all-time. And I'm sure stopping 6 of 7 helped his average.
And that explains why it went 7 rounds. Because
it sure does.
Those guys are good.
2 of the best ever to do it. And look, there were a lot of people I was pleased for on Saturday night. Liam Öhgren and Linus Karlsson amongst them, and we're going to get to that story here in a moment. But was super pleased for Kevin Lankinen. He strikes me as a very decent fellow. I've been quite impressed with his interviews, with his communicating to Canucks fans, to this market in the brief time that he's been here. He sounds like a sensible, good head on his shoulders type of guy. And as mentioned a couple of weeks ago when he took leave from the team, Blake and I don't know the whole story there. We were just told this one is heavy. So for him to get back and get his game back, because, of course, his game has been lacking for most of the season, have a performance like that, but particularly the shootout performance when it's on you time and time again, right, to save the game and save the one standing points. Very, very pleased for Lankinen, because we were having the discussion, buddy, about, look, if he can't save the savables here, they may just have to play Tolopilo in his stead, or they may have to run Thatcher Demko, and we know how that's gone in the past. And now I think if you're Adam Foote and Marco Terranius and the coaching staff, you can feel a little bit better, and particularly going in, you got a back-to-back next week, right? Seattle and Philly, about playing Kevin Lankinen in those spots.
But Matt, this just pushes the narrative that he's actually not a starting goaltender in the National Hockey League, but maybe he's the best backup in the National Hockey League. Like, his best work has come when Thatcher Demko is the other goaltender. The minute that Thatcher Demko has to leave and it's on Kevin Lankinen, he becomes a little bit of a different goalie. And hey, being the best backup in the NHL is a pretty nice mantle. And that might be what he is. But he seems to wear the load heavily when he is the standalone starter, because Thatcher Demko is injured. So
fair enough. When he was overused last year, his level slipped. Talked about it many times. I've got to find him rest. If I play him too much, the level slips. But fireman, emergency, come on in and play a run of games when the starter is hurt, or have to sit there, stew, wait. I think it was 2 weeks between games, wasn't it, for Lankinen? Yeah. Jeff had a stat about that, about how long it had been since he had played. So, I'm very, very pleased for Lankinen. And there's nothing more discouraging when you lose a game when the goaltender misses some pucks that he should save, right? And that's been the case with Lankinen a few times this year. So pleased to see him get out of that rut and not have to suffer that, have to continue to suffer that watching these Canucks games where you say, nothing wrong with the effort, played pretty well, just didn't get the breaks or didn't get a save.
Shooters craving goals against Kevin Lankinen. But if you're craving food, then Uber Eats is for you. Every time the Canucks are playing at home, you got to buy one, get one 6-piece chicken McNuggets from McDonald's in Vancouver, only on Uber Eats, because they're there for you. They lead the league in helpers. Uber Eats assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. We call assists apples in hockey. You need apples. You go to Uber Eats.
Let's spend several moments on Liam Öhgren here. For many, the throw-in the Quinn Hughes trade, not the guy they were excited about or knew much about, despite a very good amateur pedigree of being a first-round pick and playing with Jonathan Lekkerimäki on that famed Djurgårdens program in Sweden, although I don't think it's the highest of highs these days for Djurgårdens, or at least it wasn't. Now, they list him at 6 foot and 187 pounds, Blake, but take a look at this truck. Look at this guy. For those of you on audio platforms, we got a photo of Öhgren in the gym from last summer working out. Guy looks like a beast.
I believe the kids call this a thirst trap here, Matt.
Oh, is it?
Yes. Yeah. It's a lot there.
Fresh start in a new organization, and he's blossoming before our eyes. Goal, assist, shootout winner, +2 and 12:21 of ice time on Saturday. He was all over the ice, using his power, using his speed, using his shot. And in the postgame, he talked about how it was a fun game to be a part of. Here's Öhgren.
Yeah, I think it was high-paced, back and forth, a lot of goals, and fun game to play. I mean, a lot of offense and defense sometimes, but great to come out with a win.
And to keep it going on the road as well. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, for sure, and just got to keep it going now. Last game before break, so yeah.
The downside, Matt, to the Swedish model of them bringing up their superstars into the adult league early is, they don't necessarily put these young players into prominent roles. So he plays the 1 year with Djurgården in 22-23 in the Allsvenskan, the Tier 2 league.
That's what I was talking about. I mean, That's a Stockholm team with great history, pedigree, lineage. That's not typically been a team that's in the second division of Swedish pro hockey.
And then the next year he's with Färjestad. But in both of those cases, you're not putting the puck in the net a ton. He had 11 goals for Djurgården. He had 12 for Färjestad because he's the kid on the team. If he was playing in junior or in college, he's lighting up the lamp. So my problem with the model is, unless you're the tippity top, like a top 5 pick who is like you get out of routine of being an offensive go-to player. So, he did have a good year with Iowa in 24-25. That's last year. But it's 1 year over a long time where he's not the guy just lighting the lamp and being a point producer. And I think you get out of practice.
And I hear you, Blake, and I hear you. And I think for many it is beneficial to be big fish in small pond. The flip side is that you're playing against men. You're playing against more physical players that better prepares you for the National Hockey League. You're also playing against pros who spend most of their working week on this, so they should be more detailed, more experienced, and play the game in a certain way that allows you to also play that professional game and adapt to that professional game in the NHL. But I hear what you're saying.
It's a pro and a con there, right? Like,
he's had a couple of good games here, Blake, and you can't. Well, this is why I loves covering sports for this. This is one of the highlights. When you get a young player who is having success at the highest level and is aware that things are working for them and that all the hard work is starting to you can't wipe the smile off their face. You can't take the enthusiasm out of their voice. I mean, he was traded to the Canucks a week ago Friday. He had very little to say. It was clear that he was going to be sort of the sheepish third part of this. And here he is doing post-game interviews with a huge smile and that effervescence in his voice.
Well, he knew, Matt, that in that trade,
which is amazing.
He knew in that trade he was going to be labeled as the throw-in because he was pointless. He was a pointless
player. Yeah, no single point in 18-19 games.
So no. I think he puffs out his chest a little bit and says, "See, I'm not a throw-in, and now momentum's a hell of a drug, and confidence is a hell of a drug, and I hope the best for him."
A lot of chest to puff out, too.
Yeah, you're right.
Just, yoked there. Then there's Linus Karlsson with the first, surprised to read this, first multi-point game of his career with 2 goals and an assist against the Boston Bruins. He was awesome in the offensive zone. So was that line with Max Sasson as well. They accounted for all the Canucks goals on Saturday, Blake, against the Boston Bruins. So good on that line. They were outstanding, and the Canucks needed it because there was another line that wasn't so outstanding. I also thought Evander Kane was really good, too. The forecheck inside the Boston zone, turning puck over after puck over. Let's hear from Linus Karlsson. He had a smile on his face, too. He had some pep in his voice as well. Let's hear from Karlsson on the success of his line.
I mean, I think our line there, Sass and Öhgren, we skated hard in the beginning and won the puck down low and created stuff from there. And then we played with a lot of speed. That was successful. And then we played with speed, and that was helping us a lot tonight.
Yeah.
And he's flirting with a 20-goal rate. He's got
up to
7 and 32.
goals. Yep.
32 games played for him. And this was my thought at the beginning of the year. You put this guy, again, not the fleetest of foot. He's not going to drive play per se. But he brings a lot of NHL tools to the table. I thought it might work for him. And it's showing signs.
It is. Now, Öhgren said it was a fun game to be a part of. Fun is one way to say it. It was staggering how much time and space the Bruins had in the Canucks offensive zone. I mean, Mike's over at one table at Greta with Harman Dial, Tyson Cole, watching the game. I'm sitting with our buddy Juggy Bajwa, Canucks anthem singer, recording artist, watching in another part of it. And at the commercial breaks, we would get together and go, how many times has a Bruin player had the puck on his stick behind every last Canucks skater one-on-one with the goal? And then we started talking about, would you look at the way they're whipping the puck around this offensive zone? There were 2 tic-tac-toe goals. The second was prettier and easier than the first, Blake. They put some mustard on it with the backhand pass. I mean, I'm sure Adam Foote and the coaching staff is watching that and going, what in God's name are we doing there in terms of defensive zone coverage? Made Kevin Lankinen look a little better because Kevin Lankinen had a lot more high danger chances in his orbit than a goaltender typically does. And this was embodied mostly in the Marco Rossi line and in Marco Rossi himself, Blake. And I don't mean to pick on the guy because he has been an upgrade to the Vancouver Canucks and what they have had at center ice. He is a legitimate center with a ton of tools to like. He plays hard. He plays bigger than his size. Everybody told that, and that's evident as you watch him. But look at this stat line from, or listen to this stat line from Saturday. He plays 23-53, first of all. He gets his first point as a Canuck. At even strength, Blake, the shot attempts were 31-6 for the Bruins against Rossi. The shots on goal were 18-3. The scoring chances were 16-0. And that's with him on that line with Garland and Besser. How often is your first line going to get absolutely dominated like that and you win a hockey game?
Yeah, well, that's, again, he's, I think, a very good second liner. And the second liner gets better matchups. And when he's asked to be that first liner, he does not have the defensive prowess of Elias Pettersson or others in this league. And that's why Pettersson coming back would actually be really fun to see how everything slots in, because we haven't seen that since the trade here, Matt. So looking forward to that. And I'm a little bit concerned for the Canucks here versus the Flyers, because a game like that, a loose game like that, you wonder if just, being on the road this long, if the screws are starting to come loose a little bit on this wagon. If they bounce back and are good today, good on them, because I think it's trending towards a loss here versus Philly. But if they are able to recover and recoup and lick wounds after a day off yesterday, maybe they didn't get that practice in. If they had gotten a practice in yesterday, I would have had more confidence, perhaps, going into this game.
Hey, they earned a day off. They earned it.
They did. But I'm just saying, in terms of righting the wrongs, that defensive or lack thereof momentum might continue here versus the Flyers. We'll see.
Okay, now on to Ringgate. When we left you on Friday, we had seen simply the social media posts from Ben Lipka of the Abbotsford News, who does just excellent reporting on that team and across the Abbotsford and Fraser Valley community. But Ben had mentioned that he was aware that none of the players had yet received rings, and that he was also aware that players were talking about it, like, "Oh, are we getting Calder Cup champion rings? What's going on?" He was aware that they were in the dark, that they didn't know. And he also said he was aware for some time and had asked the Canucks organization a couple of times, "Hey, by the way, when are the rings coming? Are you doing a ring ceremony? Is there going to be a ring night?" Needless to say, the final celebration, right, of last season. Well, Canucks Sports Entertainment wound up releasing a statement Friday afternoon. They called winning a Calder Cup championship a, quote, monumental achievement, and said a, quote, tremendous amount of thought and care went into their design, the rings. That, quote, extensive time and attention were dedicated to their creation, and said they were excited to share with the team in the new year that the rings would be coming. So either they got caught and are now scrambling to design and produce rings that weren't previously greenlit, or this is just another unforced error on the comm side of things, Blake, and not just with the public at large, but with your own players, like simply informing your players, "Oh, by the way, like rings are coming in the new year," would have been a small but meaningful step so that players aren't sitting around going like, "Are we not getting rings after winning a championship?" Not to mention that would have diffused any media on the front side. Alas.
Yeah, and both are possible because the Canucks are the Canucks, and Vancouver Canucks communications oversees Abbotsford communications, and we know that is often leaving a lot to be desired. So both of the theories are connected there, or possibilities. People wondering, is this out of norm? Way out of norm. Just Google it. You'll see all the other previous Calder Cup champions getting them in October, November. Charlotte Checkers on December the 3rd was the latest example I could find from my Google search. So this is going to be months behind the norm.
Yeah, it's normally something you can't wait to do, right?
Well, and also
it is a monumental achievement. Well,
it's so far ago now. If you're presenting them on January 20th or whatever it ends up being,
like, you've missed the calendar year that the championship was won in.
Yeah. So weird.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very much to me like the ball was dropped here. Please don't tell me that. Please don't tell me that someone in a high place kiboshed rings, said we don't need rings. We're not producing rings for these players. Like, please don't tell me that.
There's also pressure now, Matt. They better be nice rings. Imagine they come back and they're
especially after
rings.
You say this, Blake. Especially after they put it. Yeah, exactly. Tremendous amount of thought and care went into their design. Yeah.
Yeah. If this looks like a high school graduation ring, from
Johnston's.
I didn't want to say it, but there you go. If this looks like that, oh boy,
this better look better than the Christmas basketball tourney trophy. We did get some trade activity before Friday's holiday roster freeze. The Seattle Kraken dealt winger Mason Marchment to Columbus for 2nd and 4th round picks. LA did wind up trading center Philippe Deneau to Montreal, back to the Habs. He had played there once before.
Memo to
for
Alan
a 2nd round pick. Yeah. Deneau has no goals this season, albeit he plays center, and he is under contract for one more year at $5.5 million, although that very well could be an overpay for a third-line center who doesn't score any goals, or even a fourth-line center. Marchman makes $4.5 million and is a rental. Blake, if those are the going prices, Canucks should absolutely get a haul for Kiefer Sherwood. Alas, we did hear both Columbus and Montreal connected to Kiefer Sherwood. So you wonder if they are still in the sweepstakes here, or if the market for Kiefer Sherwood has now diminished with the Habs and Blue Jackets making those additions.
I think the Bruins are still interested, likely, and that would be an apt place for Sherwood to play, I think, given his style.
Yeah, and we've also talked about it because Sherwood's only making $1.5 million, which is $3 million less than Marchment, $4 million less than Deneau. He fits a lot of salary cap situations for teams who are a little tighter. Everybody can fit Kiefer Sherwood, so there should still be a robust and flush market there for Rutherford and Alvin to deal with. And there's also a school of thought, and I saw this, and I did not see it Friday as he was scoring a hat trick against the Islanders, but saw more of it Saturday, Sunday, that if you are actually rebuilding, then part of that involves creating opportunity for young players, particularly young players who have high pedigree that you have investment in, guys like Jonathan Lekremaki. He scored in 5 straight games with Abbotsford, points in 7 straight before going scoreless in a 2-1 win Saturday against Tucson. Even if this is a lowercase rebuild, you want to see Jonathan Lekremaki in the NHL. You're already in a situation where they scratched Nils Höglander on his 25th birthday after putting out the birthday post from earlier in the day, it should be noted, to play Aatu Ratu. Now, Höglander, it was 0 points, 5 shots on goal in the 5 games since coming back from the ankle surgery, and Foote explained that he felt like back-to-back in the 3 games in 4 nights was too big an ask for Höglander at this stage. Fair enough, but I believe they're scratching him again tonight.
Looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, bottom line is Ratu, Höglander, Lekremaki, as well as the kids we talked about, or the younger players, Öhgren, Karlsson. You want all that lot to play right now. So I do think there is some urgency to a Kiefer Sherwood trade because of that, also because you don't want him to get hurt or go on
go 12 games without a goal again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Fair enough?
Yep.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Oh, I've just lost... I've just lost something here on the screen, partner, so bear with me for a second. Let's get to today's menu, and it is brought to you by our friends at Greta. Greta, fantastic spot to catch all the games. We had an absolute blast on Saturday when we were there. Thank you to Dalton and everybody with the Greta staff for taking such great care of us. It was a terrific turnout. We had some fun. There were some ugly holiday beautiful Christmas sweaters. So thank you to everybody who got dressed up for the occasion. We can tell you it is a fantastic spot to pregame or postgame because you were mere steps away from the arena and the stadium. If you need a venue for team building or a social event, check out Greta. And of course, the street food. I had the tacos again. They're delicious. Juggy had the pizza taquitos beside me. Interesting. Yeah. You don't see that
Fusion
on every menu. Yeah. And of course, the arcade, which is always tons of fun. Thank you, Cindy and Caitlin, for coming on out. They sat beside us. I said, "Oh, how do you two know each other?" They said, "We just met here. We're both Canucks fans." So there you go. Forging relationships, bringing the holiday cheer at Greta, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We're going to talk to PJ, Patrick Johnston here of the Province and Postmedia. Boy, he had quite a weekend. He wrote on, the Quinn Hughes trade, and he did mention that Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes had drifted apart somewhat, something that others were aware of as well. He did write on Rick Tocchet's return. He did write on Abbotsford Ringgate, and also a little ditty about RBC stepping up, and looks like they're going to be helpful for the Vancouver Canucks and the Aquilini group, which of course is losing brother Paolo, who's no longer an owner and presumably have to buy out his significant share. So all of that is coming up on the program today. A little later, we'll talk about Week 16 in the National Football League, thrilling as it was, with all sorts of primetime comeback victories, clinched playoff spots, and more could come tonight in that San Francisco-Indianapolis game. So be watching that one as well, as I'm sure all the Hawks fans, the 12s, will. San Francisco still to play Seattle, still with a pathway to winning the NFC West and the first seed in the NFC Conference playoffs. All of that is coming up. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. And Blake, I heard what you're saying about trending towards the loss in Philadelphia tonight, but I'm thinking that the coach on the other bench is going to get a lot of attention from the players. He can say, I'm not a quitter. I didn't quit on them. I didn't even resign. My contract was up and I chose to coach the Flyers. You can bet your bottom dollar there are a lot of players who felt like Rick Tocchet quit on them, didn't believe in them. I think that gets their attention. I think that gets their effort. I think they love the idea of a 5-game winning streak and sweeping the road trip going into the Christmas break. I'm not only predicting the Canucks to win, I'm taking them by a 2-goal margin. With the empty netter, it pays at plus 600.
I mean, my bet might come into that because I think Marco Rossi wants to be better tonight. I think he's been underperforming from a bottom line standpoint since he became a Vancouver Canuck, and he's just due to contribute. So just a single point. That's all I need out of Marco Rossi, but I get $1.95 on that one.
This segment, a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Patrick Johnston coming up next. Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
This segment brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. This is a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles. If you haven't been into the electric hybrid space before, this is how you do it. So easy. You've got an electric vehicle when you need it, running errands around town, 72 kilometers, pure electric bliss, no gas stations visited. You have a road trip planned. You need to go a little bit farther. You have some errands in the valley this time. It's okay. You got the gas there that takes you another 600, 700 kilometers. Folks, it is the way to live in the modern day. Go check it out. Take one for a test drive at your local Pacific Toyota dealer. And right now, fabulous deals. You can get a 2026 SE from $109 weekly at 3.99% APR for 64 months. That's with $3,300 down. Just visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Toyota dealer today.
As we link up with author, columnist for the province and Postmedia, he's settling all accounts in 2025 before bidding the year farewell. It's Mr. Patrick Johnston here on Harrison Price.
Oh, boy.
How was your weekend? Hi. Busy, prolific. Did a lot of writing.
This is a resident silverback.
Yeah.
He's pounding his chest and taking on all comers.
Oh my, yes. What a
week
in the world of your. We're here to talk about 4 straight wins, right?
Yeah,
right.
Just
that.
That's the difficult backdrop of all your reporting on the weekend. It's with 4 straight wins, right?
I think that's why some are big mad at Patrick. We'll get to that in about 15, 20 minutes. First. So here's the thing. I'm here to back him up a little bit. I've been told earlier in the season, Quinn and Elias aren't as close as they used to be. Yeah. Now, I think some of that is natural. Like, we're all of the age, right? When you get married, you have children, priorities change, and all of a sudden you're not spending as much time with your buddies as you used to, right?
Yeah.
So it makes it so special now when we get to all go out and have an evening at this stage of the game. And look, the other thing, Quinn and the room not being thrilled, amused, happy with Elias and the summer he had, the previous summer he had in terms of showing up in the best shape possible, being ready to build off that second round exit. Yeah. We all knew that. Everybody had mentioned that. My question is more, do you believe that sort of the urgency and acceleration of the Quinn Hughes trade was at all brought on to either a diminishing relationship with Elias or a look over to Elias' stall and saying, I'm not going to win with that guy?
No, but I think I don't think it had an impact on timeline. The timeline is as I think's been described, in that Jim Rutherford looked at where things were at and said the value is now. Perhaps it'd be a little more valuable at the coming trade deadline, but the drama just wouldn't be worth it. We'd already seen how it was wearing on the player in the room. But yeah, I mean, the relationship, as you've described, it had evolved to a point where it was not he's not at the dinner, and that's why. I mean, and that was the purpose and why I kind of wrote that note. I mean, I realized, and sort of blew up, and Reddit takes it, and you realize, oh yeah, there's a lot of people out there who don't follow the day in and day out of the Vancouver Canucks, and don't realize that Elias Pettersson had been criticized heavily by his coach last year for his practice habits. And that, was one of many players who was singled out by management in 2022. If you remember Patrick Allvin's first end of season press conference, essentially calling out the preparation of the star players, saying you guys are capable of so much more than what you have done to date. And that Quinn Hughes was one who really took that on board and raised his preparation, his understanding of nutrition, everything to a level that got him the Norris Trophy. I think we've heard the story of last season, very well. And the comparison point, for instance, I mean, JT Miller getting hurt in training camp didn't help, but Miller had come in as well. He was like, no, let's build off that playoff run. I want to win the Stanley Cup. And there was such a sort of dichotomy in how things happened. So that was sort of back of my mind. And, these are all things that we perhaps know if we're following the daily story, but if you're not here, yeah, it is true.
Right.
Like, whoa, the stars don't get along. And that's, I mean, I just thought I'd touch on that because it was a piece that Mike Russo and Joe Smith revealed that they weren't at there was a few guys at the dinner and PD wasn't one of them.
Yeah. I guess the bigger question for me is, do you believe the Miller Pettersson feud and Elias emerging even after being the guy who wasn't in great shape coming into the season? Do you believe that's linked to Quinn and asking to be traded?
I mean, I think the whole mess. I mean, listen, obviously, I'm sure we're going to touch on this. Well, big weekend. Talk to Rick Tocchet as well, right? And Rick, I said, listen, I wasn't going to hand him over the head with it, but we still talked about it. And he said, I don't know. Could we have gotten to that problem earlier? I don't know. The problem existed. Miller left. The team clearly was no longer designed as it had been. And in that equation, with Pettersson as sort of the last standing guy from what had been let's remember how impressive the group of three that was at center with Horvat, Miller, and Pettersson. Pettersson being the last guy. Hughes looking, what's my future here? What does this roster look like? Yeah, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. He didn't see enough here. Listen, whether and I think Rutherford said we don't know if this would have was there an alternative path here? I don't know. Right?
Well, winning is the alternative path, guys. If they're winning, of course, yes. Of course, Quinn Hughes stays. It's a high bar, and I've been on record saying if they're the first wild card team, I don't think he stays for that. They needed to be a better team than that. They needed to have a more certain trajectory than that. But even with all this drama, if the Canucks had made deals that kept the Canucks afloat and a contending team, I don't think Quinn Hughes is begging to get out if they're a division leader or number 2 in the Pacific. I don't think he's asking out.
Well, and the Canucks equation is different too, right? Like they can still live with a season where they're chasing something here and some uncertainty about Quinn Hughes' future in 2027, right? That's the other thing. That what became clear here, as Jim Rutherford said, is that it was time to go in a new direction, right? It sucks. We gave up the best defenseman in team history, but we need to be a different team. We need to be setting for a different future, which makes me wonder about Elias Pettersson's future and Thatcher Demko's future and all that. If you're being ruthless, as I think Hughes perhaps had to be, because he had to say, what do I want to be? Where do I want to go? And it was not here, right? He had to say, what do I think is going to happen? It's, in many ways, the same as I think Rick Tocchet had to decide last spring. What would I like? I would love to coach the Vancouver Canucks to the Stanley Cup. Is that likely? Is Quinn Hughes going to be here?
Just in terms of Pettersson not being at the dinner, a lot of players weren't at the dinner.
Yeah.
And his wife, Caitlin, was in town based on her social media of the two of them skating at Rockefeller Center. I got to admit, it's been a while since I've traveled with an NHL team on a regular, but is it routine now for injured players to go and the spouses of injured players to go with them, and for the spouses and the players to go about recreational activities during these road trips? I don't know if that's normal anymore or not.
It's funny. We were talking.
Apparently, there were other wives and girlfriends who were in New York. I can understand New York at Christmas. Everybody wants to go. So, no fault there. But I'm just wondering about procedure in terms of what NHL teams and coaches stand for in terms of quote unquote distraction. It's a terrible word because, like, your spouse is not a distraction, but in terms of the group locking in and being with the group and outsiders on the road.
Well, I mean, let's recall, for starters, that, teams have made it a regular thing to have a dad's trip or a mom's trip or whatever. Now, the Canucks, as far as I know, didn't do one of those last year. They did do a mentor's trip in 2024. But yeah, like the fact they were in New York for a week, it was interesting, by the way. They, we got the schedule and we can see what PR announces and whatever. And Wednesday was down as a, quote, travel day. Because, of course, I guess they had to go out to, Uniondale or wherever they stay now. But for the most part, they were I believe in Manhattan. And, the idea that wives would be able to come on a little side holiday while they were in New York, because this timing played out. I mean, it actually seemed totally reasonable to me. And listen, let's recognize where the Petterssons are at. Like, I understand where they're at. Losing your first pregnancy is horrifying. It stays with you forever. And if you haven't experienced that, I don't know what to tell you. It's an immensely intense emotional moment. And so there's a lot going on there. So like that to me, I didn't think it was I touched on it briefly. It's not. No,
it's a non-story. It's a non-story unless the NHL continues to operate in this world where when we're on the road, it's only the boys and we don't want any outsiders around. If you've broken down those barriers and said, no, wives and girlfriends are more than welcome to come join us on the road. Families, mom's trips, dad's trips are more than welcome to come and join us on the road. Then at that point, you're looking at a non-story. I just wasn't familiar.
It's actually pretty progressive of them, guys.
It is.
Yeah. And the fact that they won actually sort of really
spot on.
Because
spot
if
on.
they're a distraction, my goodness, it's not showing right now. Very, very odd. And the fact that it's an upper body injury, was he skating at Rockefeller or something like that? Like, there's no risk of an ACL tear here if he's got an upper body injury. So that tracks as well.
Yeah.
Now it is weird that he's not back. Like, what's going on? Have you heard anything more on the injury here, Patrick?
Very weird.
Because he was supposed to be playing all along the way.
Yeah. Skated on Thursday? I mean, I think I joked before we went on air, right? The Öhgren's not playing. Is there a requirement that at least one offensive player be scratched every game here because they don't want to win too much, But no, it is odd. Like if you're going on the road, usually you're going to, I suppose if this was a big family trip, then maybe that's all it is. And he just was able to come along and was able to practice on Thursday. And maybe he was going to be able to play, but as it looks like he's not playing in Philly. And so that's an entire trip, right? Like it was a long trip, a long time away, and got to be with his team, right? I mean, you're part of the team, but it's always that tricky one too. You always, guys always say when you're hurt, No one really wants to be near you. Whether it's superstition or just sort of the mentality of, well, you're not playing tonight, so why are you here?
The good news is they've got a break here. They got the break here now, and they actually have a pretty, like Matt and I, because of our new line of work here in the digital space, we keep track of sort of how many games are between Boxing Day and New Year's every year, and this is as busy as I remember them. Like, so they're gonna, I would think they look forward to having him back, because they actually have a pretty busy post Boxing Day schedule, and that's pretty rare for them. They usually play like 1 or 2 games.
Yeah. I mean, well, you've got the 27th, which they always seem to have, and then the 30th? Is that right? That's Philly on the 30th, isn't it?
29th and 30th. They're into Seattle. This has been a thing now too.
Right.
They go and do a quick little drive away. I don't know. Is it a flyaway? Is it a drive away? I don't know how they get to Seattle. I mean,
they fly.
Oh yeah. Okay. And then that's right. So Monday the 29th in Seattle, then Tuesday the 30th back here at home against Rick Tocchet, where he gets to meet the Rogers Arena faithful again. That should be interesting. Let's ask you the poll question while we're at it. They better off without Tocchet?
No. I mean, just look at the Philadelphia Flyers. Like, that's a team that is not perfectly constructed. Short on centers. Would love to upgrade his defense score. I mean, they were interested in Quinn Hughes, but the Canucks needed. We saw what the Canucks got, and the Flyers didn't have an ability to match that. It's a team that, as Rick Tocchet said in my piece, said we're fun, we're wild, we're heart attack every night, like 1 goal shootout, but like he's having fun. He appreciates the sort of the desire of players to listen and learn, and I think very similar to what he had connected with here, right? Like, this is a guy that loves teaching. This is a guy that, if he had not been such a good hockey player, I think would have been an amazing PE teacher, right? Like, he's a guy that cares about the people in his charge. And
a good coach or great coach? Are you prepared to say great coach?
Well, I mean, he hasn't won anything. He has, he squeezed a lot of juice out of the Arizona lemon in his time. But, and if you look, I mean, I can't remember what the number, like, aging Phil Kessel was the best 40. I mean, he had Taylor Hall for a brief period, right? But like, there's not a lot of talent on those teams. He got a lot of results. I think he's a good coach. Until he wins, I don't think he's a great coach. Like, the Canucks did a lot. He had a lot of talent. This was the Canucks roster in 24 was the most talented team he'd had, right? And they got somewhere, right? And they almost beat the Oilers, but they weren't. I don't think anybody would argue that they were actually better than the Oilers. They had got a better goaltending performance than the Oilers ever did. But don't have
from a third string goalie, but yes.
Yeah, but like that's
So here's my thing.
That's an organizational story,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I think he's a good coach. I do think so. I think he's a good coach. Look at the results he's getting in Philly. He has consistently improved his teams wherever he's been.
He may have a ceiling, but I'm not.
Sure.
I'm not disagreeing with you. My question is, and look, 4 straight wins has neutered this a little bit, but did they pick the right successor? Was the right successor not the guy down in Abbotsford without a Calder Cup championship ring to date?
Oh, I mean,
despite a trophy, despite winning a championship, not having the ring just yet. More on that in a second.
I mean, I don't think it's rocket science to know that they went with the guy. They went for the least complicated move, which was they didn't have to find another AHL coach.
They went with the guy who they hoped would keep Quinn Hughes here, and that blew up within a couple of months.
I mean, it was listen, it was a financial. I mean, there weren't a ton of options. You and I have talked about this. There were some options, right? But it was mostly financial. Come on.
Don't tell me there weren't a lot of options. There are tons of options when you're hiring an NHL coach. I hear this sometimes. What are the Leafs going to do if they fire Berube? DeBoer's the only guy out there. Bullshit. Look at Carver. Look at all these young guys who deserve chances and have done well with them. No, they wanted to keep Quinn Hughes. They hired his position coach despite his lack of NHL head coaching experience. hoping that having a guy who Quinn was familiar with and liked would lead to enough winning and enough good vibes to keep Quinn here. And they didn't win enough. And so that was that.
No. In the end, they didn't win enough. No, that's fundamentally the truth.
What I was very intrigued by this final line in your column. The newest ownership whispers the Canucks are set to switch banking sponsors next season to RBC. Along with the sponsorship, a source suggests the Aquilinis have secured preferred lending rates and access to all the Aquilini Group's businesses. If true, hello, cash flow. So is this the Paolo piece, Patrick? Like, is RBC running to the rescue and they're not actually going to go out and get a minority owner or investor? It's just going to be a big bank helping them out?
It certainly seems possible. It makes if in the end, how do they pay for? I mean, this is what all developers pay for, right? Like they go to the bank and how do I get more money to pay for my stuff, right? And this is something all developers. I mean, I was talking to people in the development business the last few months. This is everybody's been running into this, right? If you're not, you depend on pre-sales. If you don't sell enough pre-sales, the banks won't lend you any money to complete the project. It's that simple. And if you're not getting any pre-sales, you don't have any cash flow. And if you're not getting any loans from the banks, you don't have any cash flow. If this comes to pass, which it sounds like it is, they have cleared that hurdle. And so that allows them to do whatever and makes them happy about their business. So, I mean, the Paolo buyout, it's unclear where it's at. I had heard there was still some things going on there. I mean, we obviously saw the lawsuit involving his son. Money, they're always happier when there's money available. I guess that's the best way to put it. So, yeah.
The question is just whether or not they're going to get are they going to get enough money here? Like what itches is this going to scratch? Like, is it going to come to the level of not needing a minority partner anymore?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And certainly that, is what my guy said, was that, I think this improves their position. He said, who knows what they do with it, right? Maybe there was sort of a notion that it would actually help the franchise value. And if the purpose, I mean, I'm not saying I don't think they're ever going to sell. This is something that consistently has been Francesco's thing to do as he is in his mid-60s. It is his thing to do. And the more money it makes, the happier the family is, and the more inclined they are to keep it. If it's not making money, it still makes money. Like, that's the thing. That's why they jack the ticket prices, and that's why they grind down on expenses. And the margins they're not printing money the way they were in 15 years ago when they were in the playoffs every year. But I wrote it. I mean, we were all sort of going, oh my goodness, they're not selling out against the Leafs. I'm like, well, they still almost, I mean, if you want to flip that around, they still almost did. Like, they've got a lot of people paying a lot of money for tickets. So, and if your financing's better, you're happier. That's all I know. I don't have a lot of money, but that's all I know.
I just hope Roberto saw the sales price of the Pittsburgh Penguins, that it doubled in 4 or 5 years for the Fenway Group, and brings it to the next family board meeting or supper table. Guys, we're gonna make like 6 times our money.
Well, look what Tom Dundon's likely getting for the Hurricanes, right? Like a team that's had success for sure and well run, but and if you want to talk about a guy that keeps his sort of hands on the purse, right? And yet they do well and they're making a lot of money, and so their value's up. And he's looking for a minority investor, right? Like, that's kind of what everyone's doing. So, the value of the growth and value of this team is astounding when you look at how much they actually paid John McCaw.
Mm-hmm. All this despite the fact they don't win at home, Patrick, which leads me to my next question. And the streak doesn't matter so much in and of itself, because streaks are just streaks. But big chunks of games may matter. If this team goes 11-4 over the next 15 games, or whatever the number is, a decent stretch, Does that put Kiefer Sherwood trades on hold? Does that stop them from doing what they were looking like they were going to do?
Listen, I'm sure they're happy with their wins, but I think they also know the reality is that their PDO is the best in the league over the past week, right? 1074. They have punched far above what you would expect given the breakdown in shots, the shot quality, just the reality of what's actually happening versus what is likely to happen going forward, right? Like they listen, good for them. They've plucked away. They've taken their chances. You know, they've made it work. Their penalty kill has been fantastic. I mean, that's a huge part of the story, right? Like the penalty kills improvement is a massive story underneath all this. And yet at 5-on-5, they are still getting spanked. And, you know, as someone said, well, no, that's just defense. I'm like, you can't play defense forever, right? Like it's just the team shooters are too good in this league that if you keep giving them chances to score, they will score. So, you know, I'm going to say the sky is falling and wait until it does. But listen, runs have happened before. You're absolutely right, Blake. Like they could win a whole bunch of games here out of nowhere, partly because they do have some breaks. They're not, you know, they obviously have that back-to-back next week, but it's here in Seattle. Like that's not the same thing as
not a treacherous schedule. No,
it's not treacherous. So they're busy like everybody else. But you know, and they did beat a couple of good teams here, but partly just because they fought hard, right? Like you look at like the Islanders game was so baffling. The Islanders came out gangbusters, were all over them, give up a goal, and basically stopped playing, and didn't do anything until the end of the game. Right? It was absolutely bizarre. I thought they were going to absolutely crush the Canucks. Boston played pretty well despite everything, right? Like 41 shots. Kevin Lankinen, huge game, like great for Kevin Lankinen. And yet the Canucks still took their chances, right? Like you look at was it Karlsson, the Karlsson goal? Swayman's wandering out of the net, right? Like Evander Kane just puts the puck in front and Karlsson does what they tell you to do. He kept a stick on the ice, right? Like, yeah, it's a fun story. Look, they're better without their two, you know, their best defenseman, their best center. Well, no, they're not. Getting Pettersson back will make a big difference. There is absolutely no doubt about that because then David.
You think he's better than David Kampf, huh?
Is not your second line center. You know, like your team does get rebalanced better, but the truth is that you're still, you know, I mean, you're still going to be chasing a lot of the game. So,
yeah,
I don't think anything changes. I still think they're going to trade.
It is
Sherwood. Yeah, I think you're moving other guys. So.
It is amazing though how many Canucks fans are drawing the line between Elias's absence and a 4-game winning streak. Last
he's been
question.
Playing well, like that's people forget. Like he's been playing well, right?
He's been playing fine. I'll say fine, not well.
I'll say fine.
Anyway, but he's fine.
There have been moments of well. I'm more about fine.
Nonetheless, he can do things offensively that
yes,
only Marco Rossi on this current lineup is capable of doing.
Fair
I
enough.
love Max Sasson, but Max Sasson's a fourth line center. David Kampf has done fine, but he's a fourth line center.
No, I'm not sure he has done fine actually.
Okay, fine. Anyway,
a lot of fun.
I think he's
no more.
I think he's
no more
I think
4-letter
he's
F words, or I'm going to use a different one. I do want to ask you, what is your understanding of what has happened here in Abbotsford with Ringgate?
Oh. Well, I mean, the statement that came out at 3:30 after a bunch of us asked all day, Ben Lipka's story, like what fantastic reporting, right? And doing it right. So, you know, I mean, he'd been working on this for weeks, and then I guess the timeline, if you want, is Dollywall hears about it, talks about it on radio, and Ben goes, okay, well, I guess let's try this again. And goes, here's our story, and lays it out, which is that people came to him and said, yeah, I don't know. And talked to management on background. Background's, yeah, well, we're going to have to talk about that. You know, people were fitted. I did talk to people. People were fitted in the summer, right? So what happened there? There's whether it was expense or perhaps person left. I don't know. I mean, I know Quaz's theory is that the person left. But
sorry, the theory is what?
Quaz had a theory. Well, I don't know, but that's that's kind of what he. But that's
No,
his
but
theory.
no,
That's
but no, but here's the thing: is there are oftentimes unfilled positions at Canucks Sports Entertainment, so it is highly possible
It's totally possible
that somebody
They've lost a
who
ton
had
of people.
specific responsibility for this left. They did
I
not
don't know.
replace them, and so the file just languished, and nobody above them was keen enough or detailed enough.
By the way,
to
a
know.
simple Google search, which I did, I looked at the historic ceremonies for the rings in the AHL, October, November. I found one for the Charlotte Checkers in December 3rd. That was the latest one I found.
And this was Ben's, and I thought that was the most important point in Ben's story, was that, that there was the Canucks had kind of hung out this mystery night in January, which is now, I think, actually, if you look, I mean, when I last looked, was not on their website. They've taken it off. But no, you're right. Like Ben's point is that the tradition generally is if you're, whether it's a public ceremony or a private ceremony, because some teams just do something in private because there's not a lot of guys left over from the previous season and they've got to chase people. Is you do it either at the season opener or you do it very early in the year. So the idea that you're going to, have a big surprise moment and not tell anybody, I mean, that just defies expectation, defines how people are, defies reality. It was such a case of, as I wrote in my thing, I opened with Ebenezer Scrooge correctly, because you need to learn about how to treat people right. And this is an ongoing issue here, which is that fundamentally you do, a lack of care for the people that do the work. And as I've said before, the number of people that I talk to who leave that organization now and are happier when they've left is unsettling. It should tell you everything. And it's really sad, because the number of people who used to be proud to work there was every single person.
Yep.
And now it's a case of let's lean on kids who are excited to work for a professional organization, and we will burn through people constantly.
Yeah.
And you already said it, Matt. Like there's, I mean, I haven't looked lately, but for much of the fall, there's been like 6 director level positions unfilled there. They lost a ton of people to the PWHL, I heard, right? And people who are good people, right? So it's just a constant ongoing thing. And I feel, I mean, I at a certain level, I feel for the people under pressure there, because a lot of people are walking there, I'm excited. It's a professional sports team. And it should be better. And this, that you dragged your heels at best on getting rings and then saying, there's a procurement problem or something, like stop blaming other people for your problems and just get it done. I'm tired of this.
It's one thing to treat the fans like ATMs, but when you have callous disregard for those who work for you, I guess one is the extension of the other. Okay, buddy, we got to run, but lastly, get his book, okay? The Gino book. You still have a couple of days before Christmas here. The Fighting Spirit of Gino Öhgren by Patrick Johnston. You can pick it up here quickly from booksellers if you need it by the 25th, or just order it on Amazon or wherever else you get your books.
There you go.
Thank you for everything in 2025, my friend. We may catch up next week, but if we don't, we'll catch up in 2026. Merry Christmas to all the Johnsons.
Happy holidays, guys.
Thank you. Sickers and Price from the historic Wall Center and the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Lee. Game night, make it a game weekend. Turn that ticket into a downtown getaway. Book a Sickers and Price right here at the Wall Center, 604-331-1000. See, you heard it here. Some blackout date supply based on availability. Well, one conference is almost set, and the other could be tonight after a thrilling Week 16 in the National Football League. And people thought that Seattle's win Thursday would be the most improbable of the week. My bear said, hold our beer in that Saturday night comeback against the Green Bay Packers.
Congratulations, Matthew.
Like,
Congratulations.
honestly, the number of notes I got, and I'm still a non-believer, right? Like, there have been so many miracles, so many turns of good fortune this year. Somebody said to me, it's like all the bad luck your team has had for 40 years is flipping and coming home to roost this year. And that's what makes me nervous, because I'm not sure how sustainable this is.
But Bears, Patriots, and Broncos. Who's the Who's the biggest paper tiger of the bunch there? Like those three teams. Come on.
Like, despite Thursday, I still think the best team and the team I have the most faith in is the LA Rams.
Yeah.
5 spots clinched in the NFC. In fact, in all our excitement Friday talking about that Seahawks game, we neglected to say the win clinched them a playoff spot, which is kind of the important thing, early E's and O's. Seahawks, Bears, Eagles, Rams. 49ers clinched without having to play. And then 2 spots in the AFC clinch, Broncos and Patriots. 7 spots are still available. But an Indy loss tonight to San Francisco clinches playoff spots for the Jaguars, Bills, and Chargers. So the AFC could be 5 spots clinched, 2 left to go going into the final 2 weeks of the regular season. Philly, Chicago, New England all clinch with wins. New England comes back to beat Baltimore on Sunday night. Denver loses but retains that AFC's top seed. Here's the other thing, Blake. You say the paper tigers. The Patriots, Bears, and 49ers all finished in last place last year. And they're all already clinched with 2 weeks left.
It seems like there's no middle class this year.
No, it's
a small middle class.
Totally, Blake. We were saying that a couple of weeks ago. You look at the gap between good, or at least good record, and bad. I mean, it's god awful.
Yeah.
Like there are 9
double-digit wins.
Well, and the other thing, like in the AFC, there are 9 teams still left. But if Indianapolis loses tonight, they're out of the mix. 3 more clinch, and so basically you've got an AFC North battle, Baltimore and Pittsburgh left. Yeah. NFC, you've got this Carolina Tampa NFC South battle left, and then Detroit is hoping. How about this? The Seahawks on Thursday night football, the Bears on Saturday night, and the Patriots last night. They all overcome 10-point plus deficits to win. First times since at least the year 2000 where you've had 3 primetime comebacks like that. There have been 6 of those in this season, which is the most in the last 25 years. That Carolina victory over Tampa gives them a huge leg up in the NFC South. Panthers can win the division and clinch a playoff spot by beating Seattle Sunday in Charlotte. So suddenly this game has really big stakes for the opponent, Blake. And, of course, still has big stakes for the Seahawks because they have not clinched the NFC West. And the Rams in San Francisco are still alive there as well. So that should be fun. San Francisco hosts Chicago on Sunday Night Football next week. The Rams are at Atlanta next Monday night, so you got to think LA's going to win. Seattle does control its own destiny, though. Gets the NFC West crown and the number 1 seed by winning out. Football this side of the border, where the BC Lions sign all-star linebacker Darnell Sankey, ex-Montreal Alouette. He was already free and was an East Division all-star last year and the year before that. Spent some time with Calgary and Saskatchewan. Has been a very good football player in the CFL. Has also made a ton of NFL stops. He's truly like a quad A player. Like in his best years when healthy and young, he's probably an NFL guy. Has settled here in the CFL.
Makes that defense look that much more formidable. Like
wow.
There were nights last year where the defense looked top notch. They struggled with consistency, but you put in a guy like that, and
they got better later in the season too. We had talked about that with Benavides and the effect that TJ Lee had, a veteran guy coming in. Of course, those 2 new edge rushers. And you're right, Micah Awe, Darnell Sankey. Boy, you've got some guys who can thump you across the middle. The other thing here is Josh Woods, Ben Hladek, Vernon's Ben Hladek, both of whom have been starters for BC. They're free agents in February, so you have to guard against that. Mariners president Jerry Dipoto said they'd be signing a bat hopefully in the next 7 to 10 days. That was 7 to 10 days ago. And reports are now surfacing that Seattle remains interested in bringing back third baseman Eugenio Suarez.
Oh, God.
Well, they've been linked to Alex Bregman, the free agent. They've been linked to the trade candidates, former M. Ketel Marte and Brendan Donovan of the St. Louis Cardinals. It's beginning to sound like the trade prices are too high. Suarez's market hasn't shaped up as maybe he would have liked. And so, maybe you forge a situation where they stick together.
If you get him on a deal, sure, but he was terrible for them when he came back.
He's a little bit boomer bust, right? Like it is either a home run or it is a strikeout. Vancouver Golden Knights fall 4-2 to Montreal at the Coliseum Saturday. They participate in a takeover tour game next weekend, then hit the road. So they aren't back at the Coliseum until January 22nd against Toronto. That's the best team. Golden Knights, 3 wins, 4 losses, 5th place early on in the PWHL standings. This is a 3-2-1 league, graduated point system. So 3 points for a regulation win if you.
And still waiting for Sarah Nurse, who's on LTIR. So
that's right.
That explains a lot of that record. It's at least reversed, I think, if she's back. We'll see.
Poll question results from the weekend. We asked, are the Canucks a better team after the Quinn Hughes trade? Did more than 2,000 votes on this, Blake? Yes or no? What did the people say?
People said no.
They said yes, 66%. Todd, not better because they lost the best player in the deal, but better because they are a more complete team with fewer holes. We saw a lot of that. And incidentally, congratulations to Todd and Sam on the arrival of little Theodore. Can't wait to meet him. Joe, talent-wise, no, but team atmosphere, yes. Saw a lot of that as well. Michael, no, they are not. What we're seeing is the lifting of a dark cloud, team finally able to play defensively, and the return of top form Demko. Yes, get that as well. Robert says the recent upswing has nothing to do with Quinn Hughes and everything to do with Thatcher Demko. He has been splendid. Lankinen was too, in the shootout in particular. The other poll we ran, should Brock Besser be the next captain of the Vancouver Canucks? 3,300 votes on this. Yes or no? What did the people say?
People said no.
Correct. Percentage?
65.
57. It was running like 66 third Fs. Like, really? That little love for Brock? And then it came down. Hockey Gal, nope. Would be nice to have someone with a little more fire in their belly. Boy, the number of people who seem to think that fire and animation is a requirement of being a hockey captain. And like, I'm going through the annals of cup winners, like, Beliveau, Yzerman, Sakic, and I'm going, there's a lot of sort of quieter personalities who have been captains on really good Stanley Cup teams. Rob says, hot take, they don't have their next captain on the current roster. Saw a lot of that. Xerxes, love the guy, and he would deserve it, but I would go with Myers. Just feel like he would be a better mentor for the younger players the team has and will have soon. The only problem with Tyler is, how much longer is he going to be here, right? Expiring contract next year. It goes from no move clause to a limited no trade clause. And so are you going to be back in this boat by next year trade deadline or at the end of next year at the latest, I would guess, right?
But to me, that's a great – you called him an interim captain, and you put the C on him.
You think it's a good
and
bridge?
Then if he goes, bridge, exactly.
Yeah, but you're bridging to whom?
Oh, well, you kick the can down the road and see what manifests itself.
They know how to kick a can down the road, Blake. If there's anything, I am
top-notch can kickers. No,
when you're playing in the neighborhood and you're making teams kick the can, the Vancouver Canucks are the first pick.
Yeah, it's over.
Harley says, sure, why not? But does it really matter? Yeah, I hear you there. Eason says, again, as mentioned, failed to acknowledge that the Hawks had clinched the playoffs, but we missed the big stuff on Friday. We were so excited about how that game went down with all the controversies. Unless you've got something to self-report or something that you noticed from our feedback channels, Blake?
No, all good. All good.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our sort of channels, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Costs you nothing. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. We will return to noon tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last show of this week, and then we'll be back next week. And, of course, please
last show of 2025.
That's right.
So thank you, everybody. Happy holidays. Merry, and I'll talk to you in 2026. Matt and company have you the rest of the
thank you. And please do support those community sponsors. Keep it local.